Good afternoon, respected ones. This afternoon, I'm going to present before you one of the schools of philosophy called Existentialism. We discussed humanism another day. Existentialism is just like humanism, but it has got lots of differences too. Let's look what this modern philosophy is. Existentialism is a kind of humanism which believes that individual existence, autonomy, power and responsibility are important rather than the achievement of the whole humankind. It's a humanism, it's a type of humanism. But in the case of humanism, we did see that according to humanism, humankind or human race is the supreme creator. And this one you cannot see in the case of existentialism. Existentialism believes that not the supremacy of the humankind as a whole is important, but the existence of each and every human being is important. I think you might have heard some confusion now, but we are going to explain different aspects of existentialism. Then you will be removing all these confusions. Existentialism and humanism keep the above mentioned common beliefs. You can see similarities. Both do not believe in any sort of supernatural power. Just like humanism, existentialism also does not believe in any sort of supernatural power or God the Almighty. And both depend upon human experience and sensation. Both of these philosophies believe that everything happens on the basis of the experience of each individual and sensation. Human beings can learn different things by using their sense organs, and they can decide and determine their own destiny. And the differences between existentialism and humanism are: humanism gives importance to essence rather than to mere existence. Existentialism gives importance to existence, not to any kind of essence. Here comes the difference. In the case of humanism, we have seen that according to humanism, human beings cannot make use of any sort of colloquial languages, any sort of time-passing talks, small talks, and so on. So because according to humanism, human beings are the supreme creature in this world. So human beings should keep a standard in their life. They should speak only lofty language. They should keep some sophisticated culture. They should always indulge in intellectual talks. But according to existentialism, You should not force human beings or each and every human being to follow these norms and regulations such as standard, life, lofty language. These are some essences. You should not look at the essence, just give freedom to each and every individual to remain, to keep his existence as it is when he is born. Never tell them to speak lofty language. Let them speak in their own dialect or idiolect. Idiolect is the individual version of the language. You should not compel them to speak some lofty language. Who decides this standard of language? Who? So, never force any person to keep some standard which is determined by some other people. Some people decide standard of language, standard of life, and something like that. And you compel all the people to follow this standard of life and such things. It is not right. So existentialism does not look at anything like essence, but existentialism gives importance to mere existence. Jean-Paul Sartre is the greatest personality who is known as the apostle of existence. He taught existence precedes essence. Existence comes first. Why to think about essence? Every person has the right to follow his own personal interests and attitudes towards life. So existence comes first, not the essence. And he taught some people asked him, one of your work is existentialism, is a humanism. But still you often tell that the humanists are wrong. You have written a book called Existentialism is a Humanism. And at the same time, you tell that humanists are wrong. What is this? Why? Why do you tell so? Even after writing a book titled Existentialism is a Humanism. He replied, there is a story. Around the world in 80 days, in which one of the characters declares, because he is flying over mountains in an aeroplane, man is magnificent. So he means that though I have invented aeroplanes, I too can be proud of the particular achievements of some men. Sartre was against this. Sartre thought you can boast or you can be proud about your own achievements, not the achievements of the humankind as a whole. So both of these philosophies do not believe in supernatural power. Both believe that human beings are able to determine their destiny. But humanists believe that human beings are supreme creatures, so they have to keep a particular standard of life, they have to speak a lofty language, They have to indulge only in intellectual talks. But in this case, existentialism disagrees with humanism. They tell that there is no need for keeping such a standard. Every person should be given liberty to go on with his life as he is, without imposing any standard of life and something like that. My dear friends, I have read a book in Malayalam. The title of that book is Unmadam. Maybe translated into English, Madness. In that book, the writer tells about different abnormal tendencies of great famous people. And in that book, there is something about Dali, one of the greatest artists. He used to pour tea in his shirt. Actually, you know that to have some drops of tea in our shirt is something against the sophisticated culture. But he used to pour some drops of tea in his shirt deliberately, just to show that these are some natural things. There is no need for imposing such standard culture and something like that to each and every individual. So existentialism does not believe in any sort of sophisticated culture. According to existentialism, you should allow each and every man just to live as he is or she is. So core ideas of existentialism are: existence of an individual as it is important than essence. You should not look at the achievements of the individual. You should not look at the improvement of the individual. Each and every individual has got the freedom to live as he is or she is. Ability of individuals for proper choice is important. Individual autonomy is important. When a person wants to choose something, no one else should indulge by telling that motivation, reinforcement, inspiration, something like that. No other person should intrude in the right of the individuals. According to existentialism, each and every person has got the ability to choose the right thing in his life. Each individual should accept a kind of freedom suited to his own natural existence. Then each individual should be able to take responsibility of his own. Each individual should take his own responsibility. There is no need for blaming others. Each one should be able to take his own responsibility. And this one should be practiced since the childhood days, according to existentialism. General judgments are absurd. You should not judge a person by using some general criteria. You should not tell that his language is a slang, a colloquial language. His language is not good. How can you tell that? Out of his circumstances, what he speaks is the right language. How can you tell that his language is a bad language? So there should not be general judgments. You should judge a person on the basis of the circumstances or the backgrounds in which he or she lives. No individual should interfere in other choices. And according to existentialism, even the parents should not interfere in the choices of their sons. Because each and every individual has got the capacity to select what he needs, what he requires. So now let's look at the educational implications of existentialism. Education should make an individual aware of his own exclusive existence. Education should make an individual feel that he is an exclusive person. There is no need for looking at the achievements of others. There is no need for looking at the language style of others. He or she should feel that he or she is an exclusive personality. And education should cultivate this feeling in each and every individual. And if you provide such a feeling to each and every individual, you can see most of the people will not be disappointed because of something is lacking in his or her life. Education should enable an individual to have his own choices. Education should make each and every person able to stand on his feet. Each and every educated person should be able to choose what he or she requires in his life without getting assistance from others. So you should provide such an education which would make each individual able to select the right path in his or her life. Education should enable an individual to create his own values. And this is something, maybe something controversial. Idealists or some other people can never agree with this. An educated person should create his own values according to existentialism. Why should you follow the values created by others? Values should be created by each and every person on the basis of his life situation, circumstances, his experiences. There is no absolute value according to existentialism. Values are relative. Values should be determined by each individual on the basis of their experiences, their life situations, their economic background, their cultural background. Education should enable an individual to respect the individuality of others. Educated people should not blame others, should not insult others. According to existentialism, if you give proper education to your students, they will never insult their friends by telling about their language, their culture, their dress code, their attitudes towards life. According to existentialism, each individual has got his or her own ways of life. No other individual should interfere in that. So when you give education to your students, you just make them able to respect the individuality of others. You should teach your students not to judge any other person on the basis of some general or common criteria. Individualized curriculum should be used in educational system. Curriculum should be on the basis of the interests of the individuals. And this one we will discuss later when we will talk about individual autonomy during your first semester paper for B.Ed. Curriculum should not be general. Curriculum should be individual. Each individual should be given the freedom to form and select their own curriculum. Individualized pedagogy should be used by teachers. You should not teach every student as a whole. You should not teach the students as a whole by using some general methodologies. You should look at the abilities of each student. You should look at the approach of each student, and on the basis of their ability, their attitude, their approach, their aptitude, you have to select the methods for teaching. There should be individualized pedagogy. Learners should be encouraged to communicate in their natural language. And this is one of the most important aspects of existentialism. According to Rebecca Eller, there has been a mistaken notion that students from poor economic and socio-cultural backgrounds are not able to learn foreign language because they are not even able to speak well in their own mother tongue. According to Rebecca Eller, this is a mistaken notion. If you give them an opportunity for speaking in their own dialect or in their own slang or in their own regional version of language, you can see that they will be speaking far more better than the so-called brilliant students in your classroom. So each student should be allowed to communicate in their own dialect or idiolect. Literature should not be categorized into classy and poor. According to humanists, classical literature should be taught. And they believe that classical Greek literature should brought back. But existentialists tell, how can you categorize literature into classy and poor? If the person is coming from a particular locality, you should teach him or her the literature belonging to their locality. Actually, you are throwing some pieces of literature away without including them in the curricula just because such literary pieces are written in their dialects. It is not right. Literature cannot be categorized into classy and poor. Literature should be judged on the basis of the circumstances of the writer who writes a particular literary piece. So according to existentialism, when you prepare curriculum, never throw away some literatures, some literary pieces just because they belong to some poor, some sections of the society. You cannot categorize literature into classy and poor. And this is something about existentialism, its features and educational implications. Existentialism does not believe in any sort of sophisticated culture. They believe in the natural existence of each and every person.